The air inside the ark felt heavy with the weight of waiting as Noah stood near the small opening, holding the dove with hands that trembled from months of silent hope. He released the bird into a sky still thick with the memory of storms, watching it disappear into the pale horizon while his heart carried the ache of not knowing how much longer the waiting would last. Every moment felt stretched thin, as if time itself resisted moving forward, leaving him suspended between fear of disappointment and longing for a sign that the world was healing. The ark creaked beneath his feet, reminding him of the long nights when the waters raged and every sound felt like a threat to the fragile vessel holding his family together. He tried to steady his breathing, but the uncertainty pressed against his chest, whispering questions he didn't want to face about whether the dove would return empty again. The sky outside shifted slowly, carrying the scent of change. Yet Noah's heart remained caught between hope and exhaustion as he waited for wings to reappear. When the faint flutter finally reached his ears, he turned with a mixture of disbelief and desperate longing, unsure whether he dared to hope. The dove landed gently in his hands, its feathers damp, its body trembling, carrying a small olive leaf that glistened with the promise of something new. Noah's breath caught as relief washed over him, not in a triumphant wave, but in a fragile, tear-filled release that felt almost too sacred to speak aloud. The leaf was small, but it carried the weight of every prayer whispered in the darkness, every fear endured, every moment of waiting that had stretched his soul thin. His eyes filled as he realized the storm had not been the end, and that God had been working in ways he could not see, even when the waters hid every sign of progress. The ark felt different now, not because the world had fully healed, but because hope had finally pierced the long silence of uncertainty. Noah held the dove close, feeling its heartbeat against his palm, sensing that God was gently reminding him that restoration often begins with the smallest signs. The olive leaf felt like a whisper of mercy, a quiet assurance that the floodwaters were retreating even if the landscape still looked unfamiliar and unfinished. Noah closed his eyes, letting gratitude rise slowly through the exhaustion, allowing himself to believe that the long season of waiting was beginning to shift. The moment was tender and fragile, filled with the kind of hope that doesn't erase the pain but gently wraps around it with compassion. He knew the journey wasn't over, but something inside him softened, as if God had placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and whispered that he had not been forgotten. The ark, once a place of survival, now felt like a sanctuary of slow restoration, where God was teaching him to breathe again after the storm. Noah looked at the fading horizon, sensing that the same God who guided the dove was guiding his weary heart toward a new beginning. And as the quiet settled around him, he felt an invitation rising within his spirit, calling him to pray with the same honesty that carried him through the flood. So as we enter this moment together, let us bring our own exhaustion, our own waiting, and our own longing for signs of hope before the God who never forgets us. Please like this video to help support more faith-building Bible episodes like this one. And now, with hearts open and weary places exposed, let us step gently into prayer. Lord, we come before you with hearts that feel stretched thin by seasons of waiting, carrying emotions we have tried to manage on our own, yet still finding ourselves overwhelmed by the weight of uncertainty that settles into the quiet corners of our minds. And we ask that you meet us in these tender places where fear and hope collide. We bring to you the exhaustion that lingers after long battles, the heaviness that sits in our chest when answers seem delayed, and the quiet ache that grows when we feel unseen or forgotten. Trusting that you understand every unspoken emotion and every hidden tremor of our souls, even when we struggle to articulate what hurts. We confess that there are moments when we feel like Noah standing at the window of the ark, unsure whether anything is changing, unsure whether the waters are truly receding, and unsure whether we have the strength to keep waiting without losing heart. And we ask that you breathe peace into these fragile spaces where our faith feels thin. We acknowledge the fear that rises when we cannot see what comes next, the doubt that whispers that nothing is shifting, and the anxiety that tightens around our thoughts when we imagine worst-case scenarios instead of resting in your presence. And we ask that you gently loosen the grip of these emotions so we can breathe again. We bring to you the moments when our minds race at night, when our hearts feel unsettled, and when our spirits feel worn down by the slow pace of change. And we ask that you surround us with the same quiet assurance that filled Noah's heart when the dove returned with the olive leaf, reminding him that you were still moving even when the world looked unchanged. Lord, we ask that you draw near to the places inside us that feel bruised by disappointment, weighed down by unanswered prayers, or stretched by long seasons of uncertainty. And we ask that you pour your comfort into these places like gentle rain falling on dry ground. We ask that you calm the storms within us, not by removing every challenge, but by filling us with the deep, steady awareness that you are present in every breath, every tear, and every moment of waiting, guiding us with a tenderness that never wavers. We ask that you help us release the pressure we place on ourselves to be strong all the time, and instead allow us to rest in the truth that you hold us even when we feel fragile, tired, or unsure. Lord, we ask that you speak peace into our anxious thoughts, clarity into our confusion, and hope into our discouragement, reminding us that you are not distant from our pain, but deeply present in every moment of it. We ask that you help us feel your nearness in the quiet moments when we pause long enough to breathe, long enough to notice your presence, and long enough to remember that you are the one who carries us when we feel too weary to carry ourselves. We ask that you soften the places inside us that have grown guarded from disappointment, and that you gently reopen our hearts to hope, not in a way that denies our pain, but in a way that honors it while still believing that you are working in ways we cannot yet see. If this prayer is speaking to you, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Lord, we bring before you the real situations that weigh heavily on our lives, acknowledging that the storms around us often feel just as overwhelming as the storms within us. And we ask that you step into these circumstances with the same quiet authority that guided the waters to recede in their appointed time. We lift to you the financial pressures that tighten our chest, the relational tensions that leave us feeling misunderstood or alone, the decisions that keep us awake at night, and the responsibilities that feel heavier than what our strength can carry. Trusting that you see every detail even when we feel buried beneath the weight of it all. We ask that you meet us in the places where we feel stuck, where progress seems slow, and where we fear that nothing is changing. And we ask that you remind us that you are working beneath the surface in ways that are not always visible, but always purposeful. Lord, we bring to you the situations that feel like endless waiting, where we have prayed for breakthrough, but still find ourselves standing in the tension between hope and disappointment. And we ask that you breathe fresh endurance into our spirits so we do not lose heart. We ask that you step into the places where we feel powerless, where circumstances seem beyond our control, and where we fear that our efforts are not enough. And we ask that you anchor us in the truth that your strength is not limited by our weakness. We ask that you guide us in the decisions that feel overwhelming, giving us clarity where confusion has settled, wisdom where uncertainty has taken root, and courage where fear has tried to silence our steps. Lord, we ask that you bring provision into the areas where we feel stretched thin, opening doors that no one else can open, providing resources we could not have predicted, and creating pathways that reflect your faithfulness rather than our striving. We ask that you bring healing into relationships that feel strained, restoring communication where silence has grown, softening hearts where hurt has lingered, and rebuilding trust where it has been fractured, reminding us that you are the God who brings reconciliation even when the path forward feels unclear. We ask that you bring strength into the responsibilities that feel overwhelming, giving us the endurance to keep going, the patience to move slowly when needed, and the resilience to rise again when we feel worn down. Lord, we ask that you help us recognize the small signs of your movement, the subtle shifts that reveal your hand at work. and the quiet moments where you whisper reassurance into our weary hearts, just as you used the olive leaf to show Noah that the waters were receding even before the landscape fully changed. We ask that you help us trust that progress is happening even when we cannot measure it, that healing is unfolding even when we cannot see it, and that breakthrough is approaching even when the horizon still looks uncertain. We ask that you help us rest in the truth that you are not rushed, not overwhelmed, and not distant from our circumstances, but deeply present, deeply intentional, and deeply committed to our good. Lord, we ask that you steady us in the midst of our situations, giving us the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path feels muddy, the patience to wait when the timing is unclear, and the faith to believe that you are guiding us step by step toward the place you have prepared. We ask that you help us release the pressure to control outcomes, the fear of what we cannot predict, and the anxiety that rises when we imagine futures that you have not written. Replacing these burdens with the peace that comes from trusting that you are already ahead of us, shaping what we cannot yet see. Do you have anything to add to the conversation? Please add your voice to the comments below. Maybe add your prayer requests for others to pray alongside you in your journey. Lord, as we turn our hearts toward the future, we acknowledge the uncertainty that often rises when we imagine what lies ahead, and we ask that you meet us in this place with a steadying presence that calms our fears and strengthens our resolve. We bring to you the questions that linger in our minds, the possibilities that excite us, the outcomes that worry us, and the unknowns that stretch far beyond our ability to predict, trusting that you hold every moment that has not yet unfolded with a wisdom far greater than our understanding. We ask that you help us release the fear of what we cannot control, the anxiety of what we cannot foresee, and the pressure of trying to secure outcomes that only you can shape, replacing these burdens with a deep confidence that you are already preparing the path ahead. Lord, we ask that you fill our future with clarity, guiding us with gentle nudges when we need direction, firm conviction when we need courage, and quiet reassurance when we need peace, reminding us that you never lead us into places where your grace cannot sustain us. We ask that you protect us from the fears that try to distort our vision, from the doubts that try to weaken our faith, and from the discouragement that tries to convince us that nothing good is coming. Replacing these lies with the truth that you are a God who finishes what you begin. We ask that you help us walk into the future with open hands, willing hearts, and steady steps, trusting that you are shaping something beautiful even when the process feels slow or hidden. Lord, we ask that you strengthen our faith for the long journey, giving us the endurance to keep believing when answers take time, the resilience to rise again when setbacks occur, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the path feels unfamiliar. We ask that you help us see the future not as a threat to be feared, but as a canvas where your faithfulness will continue to unfold, painting stories of redemption, healing, and restoration that reflect your goodness in ways we cannot yet imagine. We ask that you help us trust that every season ahead, whether filled with joy, challenge, growth, or waiting, will be held in your hands with the same care that carried us through every season behind us. Lord, we ask that you surround our future with your protection, guarding our steps from harm, shielding our hearts from discouragement, and covering our minds with peace that steadies us when uncertainty tries to shake our confidence. We ask that you fill our future with opportunities that align with your purpose, relationships that strengthen our faith, and moments that remind us of your presence in both the ordinary and the extraordinary. We ask that you help us walk into tomorrow with a spirit of expectation, believing that you are not finished with us, that you are not silent in our story, and that you are not distant from the details that matter most to our hearts. Lord, we ask that you anchor us in hope, not a fragile hope that depends on circumstances, but a deep, steady hope rooted in your character, your promises, and your unfailing love. We ask that you help us remember that the same God who guided Noah through the flood, who sent the dove with the olive leaf, and who caused the waters to recede at the right time, is the same God who guides our future with precision, compassion, and unwavering faithfulness. We ask that you help us step into the days ahead with courage, trusting that you are writing a story that leads us toward healing, restoration, and purpose, even when the path feels slow or uncertain. Please consider sharing this video to someone you know if you believe they might benefit from the faith-building prayers this video brings to light. May the Lord bless you with a peace that settles gently over your heart, calming the storms within us and reminding you that you are held with a tenderness that never wavers. May He strengthen you with a courage that rises quietly from within, giving you the confidence to face each day with steady steps and an open heart, trusting that He is guiding you even when the path feels uncertain. May He surround you with a hope that does not depend on circumstances, but flows from the deep assurance that He is working in ways you cannot yet see, shaping your future with wisdom, compassion, and unwavering love. May the Lord speak clarity into your questions, comfort into your fears, and rest into your weary places, reminding you that you do not walk alone. Not for a moment, not for a breath, not for a single step. May He fill your days with gentle reminders of His presence, subtle signs of His movement, and quiet moments where His peace settles over you like a soft covering, steadying your spirit and renewing your strength. May He guide you into the days ahead with a confidence rooted not in your own ability, but in His faithful character that has carried you through every season before this one. And may you go now with a heart that is comforted, strengthened, and gently lifted, knowing that the God who caused the floodwaters to recede is the same God who walks beside you, before you, and within you, now and always.